Hi, my name is Stephen Verhalen, and today this presentation will cover the regulatory structure of NERC. Before we begin, here is a quick outline of this presentation. First, we will go over the history of NERC and how it became the corporation that it is today. Afterwards, we will review the purpose and goals of NERC. Finally, we will see how NERC is structured in the electric market. In 1963, a group of volunteers created the North American Power Systems Interconnection Committee, also known as NAPSIC, to help collaborate the United States and Canadian bulk electric system. In total, there were 7 interconnected transmission systems at this time, making this system the biggest electric grid on Earth. Even at an early stage of development, people involved with the electric grid knew it was important to coordinate the bulk electric system and maintain some level of reliability and coordination. However, this group failed to consider a plan to rejuvenate the electric grid in the event of a major blackout, considering one had not happened prior to this date. On November 9, 1965, the inevitable happened. The United States experiences its first major blackout at the time. The blackout left over 30 million people without power in a 13-hour time span. The affected Northeast regions consisted of New York, Ontario, Toronto, and other small U.S. countries shown on this map. What caused the major event to occur? The transmission system happened to be heavily loaded on this date by customers who were running heaters, TVs, lights, and so on. A relay tripped out a generator in New York due to the strenuous load fluctuation. This transferred more load to other generators that were already heavily stressed. The other generators were shut off to prevent any further damage, and eventually the entire system had no generation being supplied. At this time, no plan of action was prepared for an event like this, considering a major blackout had not happened before in the United States. As we've discussed many times, government responses and rules are created after an event happens. An event this serious gave the government a good reason to take action to prevent catastrophes like this from happening again. In 1967, the United States government passed the U.S. Electric Power and Reliability Act. This gave the Federal Power Commission, later changed to FERC, the authority over reliability even though it was never enacted. On June 1, 1968, the North American Reliability Council was established from the recommendation of FERC. With the establishment of NERC came 8 regional reliability organizations underneath it, which we will go into more detail later in the presentation. At this point, NERC was responsible for coordination between transmission systems along with utilizing NAPSIC guidelines. On July 13, 1977, another blackout occurred in New York City, mainly due from a lightning strike. The lightning strike tripped 345 kV breakers and soon took out a large generator. Once the other transmission lines became overloaded, the grid in New York eventually shut down. The result was catastrophic. People began rioting in the streets, looting stores and shops, and others started fires that created lots of damage. Without electricity, people became uncivilized and ignored laws. It was evident that blackouts needed to be prevented in order to maintain the health and safety of society. This also displayed how vital electricity had become to society. Up until this point, reliability standards that were produced by NAPSIC and NERC were not mandatory. The reliability standards were only voluntary guidelines that were created for the common interest of keeping the bulk electric system continuously operating. In 1980, a decision was made to merge NAPSIC into NERC, to which NERC began utilizing all NAPSIC guidelines and standards. Between 1980 and 2003, FERC had been gaining credibility and authority in the U.S. electric market. They had been getting involved in wholesale trade marketing, regulation standards, and implementing fines on utilities that failed to comply. In 2003, the largest blackout ever recorded in the United States occurred. With over 55 million people who lost power, the economy suffered greatly during this time, as many people could not work and businesses could not operate. This blackout was the ultimate push to begin mandatory regulations by NERC. In 2005, the Energy Policy Act was signed in by George W. Bush. This gave NERC the ability to enforce regulations on utilities and hold them accountable through self-auditing programs. In 2007, NERC kept their acronym but changed their name to North American Electric Reliability Corporation. Under the supervision of FERC, they continued to create standards and regulations for utilities to follow in order to prevent future blackouts and maintain the integrity of the bulk electric system. After looking at how NERC grew to become the major entity that it is today, let's take a look at the purpose and goals of this corporation. If you look on NERC's website, you can find that their mission statement says, to assure the reliable operation of the North American bulk electric system. This is the #1 priority of NERC, considering how important the bulk electric system is. They have dedicated their regulations and standards to maintaining arguably the most critical portion of the United States infrastructure. In order to achieve their mission statement, NERC has set up their own concept called the 4 Pillars of Success. The first pillar is reliability. Again, we see the emphasis of NERC on addressing real problems to improve the reliability of the grid. Over the course of time, we have seen how NERC continually responds to problems that affect the bulk electric system. The second pillar is assurance. NERC realizes the importance of holding themselves and other pieces of the electric grid accountable for their performance. The third pillar is learning. As technology advances on a daily basis, NERC utilizes the experience from the past to learn new ways to improve reliability. The fourth and final pillar is risk-based approach. NERC shows dedication by focusing actions and programs on issues that affect grid reliability the most. As we can see from these 4 pillars, all of them are focused on reliability and performance on the electric grid. Let's take a look at how NERC is currently structured. Originally known as the Federal Power Commission, FERC became the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. FERC is the main overseer of NERC and mainly focuses on interstate commerce. FERC not only focuses on electricity, but they regulate natural gas and oil transportation as well. Considering how vast the energy market has become, it makes sense that NERC has been delegated to handle electric regulation. NERC reports to FERC. Beneath NERC are 8 organizations that control and monitor the bulk electric system in their respected regions. As mentioned earlier in this presentation, the main goal of NERC is to assure reliable operation of the North American bulk electric system. This group creates and enforces regulations that hold the bulk electric system to a level of standard to assure reliability for customers. The 8 regions that report to NERC are split across the United States. These regional organizations help NERC monitor and enforce regulations on utilities in their respected region to ensure that they are complying with standards. These 8 entities are able to focus more directly on the bulk electric system in their regions as opposed to NERC having to do it all under one corporation. The BES users and utilities that are under the authority of NERC also play a role in the reliability standards that they must comply with. These utilities are responsible for maintaining the performance of the electric grid and can be heavily fined for not complying with NERC standards. These BES users can also contribute their input while NERC creates a regulation standard. This is beneficial for the BES user because they can find common ground with NERC to create a standard that is feasible for reliability operations. To conclude this presentation, we have seen how blackouts across America have advocated the need for some kind of regulation. Throughout the past several decades, the growth of NERC has become a powerful corporation capable of enforcing standards and rules for BES users and utilities across the North American continent. The main goal of NERC is to maintain the reliability and performance of the bulk electric system. NERC's authority is delegated by FERC through certain standards and regulations.